Okay, hello everybody. My name is Carlo Zanchetta from University of Padova, Italy, and I'm going on with some old-fashioned researches based on IFC. Okay, so my first presentation here is integrating time, cost, and resources in BIM, a process-oriented framework. So the aim of our research is considering time scheduling as a model-based activity. So the problem is that project control is fundamentally based on traditional methods that are time-consuming and error-prone. And they are based on subjective experience rather than objective data. They have no integrated approach to time, cost, and resources on IFC. I mean, the overall intent is that the data model is available in IFC, but the implementation in modeling authoring tools is not available, okay? And in the end, it's fragmented tools locked in proprietary ecosystems. So we tried to give a response to this problem, and so we tried to define a process-oriented integrated framework for managing cost, tasks, and resources built in the IFC 4.3 standard. In some sense is very aligned to what we already discussed with Professor Carlo. So our state of mind is that when we look at the data model of IFC, a lot of product templates are available when we talk about, for example, IFC wall or IFC door or window. Okay, it's quite well defined. Okay. On the opposite, we can say that there is no process template available. We talk about IFC task, we talk about IFC process, but it's not clear enough if we can talk about process templates. So we try to go on a little into this state of mind. So this is quite typical, thinking to the process template, for example, for a cast concrete column, so the rebar, the formworks, the forming, and then insulation and painting and so on. And then to map to each process connected to the main task, all the resources in terms of material, labor, and equipment, and so on. Okay, so clearly, or better, not so clearly, but in the data model, all these entities, these classes are available. Okay, the general methodology we defined was to consider the hierarchy available in IFC in this way. So consider IFC task type that we can instance into other IFC task type entities. Okay, we created a sort of like type and hierarchy. So we considered a process template made of different construction processes, just working with the IFC task type. Okay, so the process template can instantiate throughout IFC rel nests multiple construction processes. Each one is a part of a general process template. So in the end, this matches quite well, what is the traditional way of thinking, of considering and planning construction schedules. Okay. And then we made another step toward the available data model. So the construction process could be split into labor, resource, construction material, resource, and so on. And we find a perfect alignment with the availability of IFC classes, IFC construction resource. Okay, so each process then can be translated into a construction process itself, or a general process which is only cost or time relevant, for example, transports or forming, okay? So in the end, given the fact that as a research group, we are working on the regional price lists, even in collaboration with the Milan group with which we collaborated, okay, we tried to analyze if it was possible to map the IFC cost items that we are going to match into the different price lists, okay? And in the end, the answer was that this was available throughout the data model of IFC, but maybe, I've said maybe, not so clear if we look at the knowledge base, because it's not so immediate as an approach in how can we translate this state of mind into something that could be delivered throughout an authoring tool. Okay, so in the end, we start from the process template, we split it into different construction processes, and then throughout the rel assigned to process, we have the different resources to which we can assign to each construction process. And this is clearly the moment in which we can generate something that could be available at an operational stage. Okay, so as you can see, to each BIM element, we can assign on one side an IFC task, which can nest other construction processes. On the other side, we assign throughout the assign to control, what we already stated when we analyzed the cost estimation, so the 5D discipline, let's say, looking at cost item. Okay, so again, a cost item can instantiate multiple cost items. Okay, so the stepping stone, the missing dot, is the, as stated even in the previous presentation, the construction resource. Construction resource is the linking element that can help us connect the IFC task with the cost item, okay? And in particular, what is, I hope, clearly stated in that left image, it helps us mapping one-to-one, many-to-one, or one-to-many. And this is what is relevant because most of the times when we do process scheduling, we have on one side one process template, on the other side we have a group of multiple building elements. So the problem of process scheduling is that it's not typically connected to one item, but on one relationship or multiple relationship on one item. Okay, so in this way it was possible to connect, for example, the base costs of the construction resource to the base units of the, for example, the labor resources, as highlighted even in the later problem, which is connect to the document reference in on-site. Okay, so the technicalities are the ones that you already have seen in Beatrice's presentation. Okay. But in the end, in this way, it was possible for us to connect the dots, okay, in a standardized way, sorry, okay. And in the end, the process template that we got was clearly being translated into something typical inside from some, for example, construction sites, as like for the structural casting, okay. And in the end, here it is. We tried to convey a proof of concept of our research, so it was translated into the a web application. So the first phase is to create the template. So we can throughout this web application create a new process template, and in the process template you can aggregate multiple construction processes. Okay, then throughout the web application, by uploading the IFC model, we can connect the process templates to the building elements by mapping the resources that are assigned to the building elements. So the application developed in that open company was just a proof of concept. What is in the background of this proof of concept is that demonstration that it could be fully delivered throughout open standards. And then in the end, again, after having done this, so once you upload the model and then you map throughout this backbone, let's say, availability of process templates that can instantiate it throughout processes to the elements, we can generate, okay, we can generate the process schedule. But turning back to your question, the problem is that we have no Navisworks or Microsoft Project or Primavera scheduling the schedule is IFC itself. The only problem is that typically we pay a look to the model, only to the product model, and not to the process model. Okay, so in the end, what we would like to demonstrate is first that if we search for a standard to convey process modeling, IFC is a standard, and not, for example, BPMN, which is not a standard for process modeling. Second, that we can find into IFC the full coverage of the necessities to convey the process model, and then share it in an interoperable way and connect it to the 5D domain. Okay, so the conclusions are that first of all, IFC can serve as a central model for integrated project control, and all generated IFC files were read correctly by external tools. And then the open web prototype auto-generates WBS, CBS, BOQ, and 4D schedules from IFC data. On the other hand, the limitations of the study are that the testing is limited to, at the moment, simple elements in a small project. And then the writing process of the templates and the processes is really much time consuming, but it's made once forever, okay, because we are talking about templates and not just single processes. And then the prototype does not yet support process instance editing. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have some questions, I'm here.